everybody. How are you? Welcome. Welcome if you're joining us for the first time to Impossible Live. Welcome back if you're returning. And let us know where you're from. We'd love to know ways to kind of help you in between the impossible lives. And I'm delighted today to welcome a lovely lady with a business name that really fools you when you look at it. And Adriana, I usually tell people how we met. I'm going to leave that on you so you have a chance to kind of dive in. And I want to also thank anybody who's joining us live. We're at a different special time today, and I'm delighted that you're able to join us. But tell
Absolutely.
us about you a little bit, ways people can find you, and some of your gems. And I'm going to look like I'm disappearing, but I promise you, I am so right here with you.
Absolutely. So, okay, I'm Adriana. I actually met Mel. I think we were introduced by Jane, if I'm not mistaken. Feel free to correct me on that. But I was introduced by Jane and we hit it off, and here I am on her platform. So, I'm Adriana. I have a company called the Lazy Millennial. I've been in business about 5 years, but I say I've been in business for real for like the past two when I restarted as a Lazy Millennial. So, what I do is operations management and technical writing, more emphasis on the technical writing, but I did the operational processes, so that's me right there. And as far as duplicating yourself and getting started with that, oh hey y'all, see y'all. All right. As far as duplicating yourself, I'm just gonna start from the beginning. So as I mentioned, I've been in business 5 years. I had a virtual assistant agency, and with that I don't want to say it went wrong, but it kind of did. But I learned a lot from that. More often, like the most important thing I learned from that is the duplicating yourself. So like I had no plans to start an agency. I had no plans with starting really the virtual assistant business as a whole. So whenever it came to that point, it was it was a lot of trial and error. And the main thing I would get so frustrated about when I was stuck, well, not stuck, when I was doing the virtual assistant agency was being stuck in the middle. So like I had team members, I had people that knew how to do stuff, I had all these things, but people were still relying on me to pretty much like transfer everything. Just like, what is the point of all this if I still have to do everything in the middle? So this is where the duplications kind of like start. I'm like, okay, so I'm struggling. People are coming to me. They're struggling. Like, even though they need help inside their business, it's like, where, like, there's like a key component missing. It's like, I can put my finger on it. It's like, okay, like we're doing the work for you, but like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like you should be, when you're hiring us virtual assistants at the time, you should be able to either make more money or you should be the one doing, you should be relaxing, whatever the case may be. Like when you're at the point where you're hiring supportive staff, like you should be good to go. So like that should have been the thing. And like when people are coming to me with that, I wasn't like processing that either. Like by the time I was hiring my people, I should have been stepping back. Like I should have been figuring out which roles I should have had in place. So I wasn't the one stuck in the middle. So long story short, during COVID, I had to pretty much like shut down. And I'm just like, okay, I can't run my company like this anymore. I don't want to do this. Like I'm getting frustrated. Like I'm getting money, like, which is great, but I want the freedom. That was the main important thing. Like, I want to be able to do stuff for my kids. And here I am waking up at like 4 a.m., not going to sleep until like 9 or 10 p.m. because I had to find the choppy middle, like, stop, do this with my kids, stop, do that, go to work, do this. And like, no, I didn't want to live like that. So lo and behold, stop that, redid. I was like, okay, so processes. I had to redo my standard operating procedures. When I kind of did like a soft reopening, I figured out like, okay, things are flowing much better. And when I say standard operating procedures, I mean not just like writing things down. Because I had standard operating procedures when I had my people, but I didn't really, it wasn't done correctly. Because whenever you have standard operating procedures, you should have a really strong operational flow and systems in place. And if you don't have that, you're just documenting mess. And when you document mess, that's what you're giving off to your team. So like, that's why things don't flow the right way. So things weren't flowing the right way. So when I redid them and I realized, I shouldn't have been doing that. Like, let me try this, yada, yada, yada. I had better standard procedures and people actually understanding what I meant and work was getting done. And it's just like a light bulb went off in my head and just like, wow, like, this is what life this is what life is. Like, this is what I wish life was in the beginning. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to do this for more business owners, because I know this is what a lot of people are missing. But I did that 2021. I'm just like, okay, here we are. We did this. I figured out, I was like, okay, I want to focus on setting up procedures for businesses. So like, if you found, like, some of you know me, like when I first started, like I was strictly like SOPs, this, that, and the third. So like, I was like, let me focus only on standard operating procedures. I didn't even mention documentation, but anyway, start off with that and pretty much relaunch as the Lazy Millennial leading on to now. So I want to get to like the good part, a lot of everything I've learned, quotation marks, for real in business. And of course, when I have my agency, so like the pre the Lazy Millennial time with duplicating yourself. So number one is definitely know yourself and your business. Like, make sure you have the foundational piece in order. So before you can duplicate yourself, before you can try to pass things on, you need to make sure you have a sturdy operational process in place. So when it comes to operational processes, it's simply the step-by-step actions you take to achieve goals. And all that is like, I lost my train of thought. All it is whatever goal you're trying to meet. That's operational process and piecing them together. I was doing a lot of talking. I'm sorry. I get excited about this.
This is amazing. And this is why I'm saying that the Lazy Millennial is kind of like the funniest company name that you possibly ever could have picked.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have like this amazing energy and nothing comes across as lazy. And you've got a beautiful family and an amazing mom and nothing lazy at all. So
Right.
really, Adriana has picked like the really fun, what a fun name for a brand. And thanks for letting us know a little bit about your story. And besides the know yourself, because really that's like, so we've been having so many discussions about that in
Right.
so many different ways in other Impossible Lives, because sometimes we really do get out of touch. What I really love is what you said about if we're documenting flows and systems that don't really work. Like, I think sometimes in business, no matter what stage we're at, or even sometimes, as others are returning to the office or working from home, we're in a state kind of busyness. It almost feels like you're busy to be busy. And I think that's one of the things, as you were saying before the pandemic, I think of all the things. I'd leave sometimes in the morning and I could be on the road for like 6-7 hours. And it felt like being a road warrior on certain days was just part of the rhythm. But I think what you're reminding me is, as we're slowing down, how to duplicate ourselves in a world where there's all these conversations too about artificial intelligence, and people are trying to, use more productivity tools. That I guess when we first started and picked up this title, I was kind of thinking of, how do we add, as you would say, more me into my day, as opposed to more tasks. And I think that's the part. If we were trying to onboard a new team member, and you mentioned it from the virtual assistant perspective, or maybe we're preparing to hire our first either on-site or virtual team member, or it's intern season, or you're mentoring somebody, or you have an apprentice. And especially as we get in, this old crop of college students who are going back in different ways, to kind of build skills on the resume. If you're prepping for an actual in-person or virtual team member, where do you start from that perspective?
Oh, that's a good question. So definitely, there's a couple of things I would say. So number one is definitely knowing where you are inside the business, because a lot of times people are making the mistake of, like, they feel like they want to hire somebody for a particular thing. Like, I'll just say marketing, because marketing is like a big one. So like, people will be like, okay, I need to hire someone for marketing. So they're trying to get stuff prepared, when in actuality, they need to actually focus on like the sales part. Like, they do fine with marketing, they hire sales. But knowing where you are is definitely number one, and actually knowing how things work with that position. Because again, another thing too, people will hire, they don't really know what they're actually looking for, or they don't know what the scope of work is, and that's fine. But you need to at least write out like the tasks and stuff. Like, what do you want this person to do? Like, what is the goal for the person? Like, why are you hiring this person? Like, figuring that stuff out first before you actually take the leap and hire somebody is definitely key. And once you do have that, making sure you have the necessary systems in place to actually make things come alive. Because again, they enhance your systems. And if you don't have them, then we know how that works.
It really can be interesting. And I love that you're saying know where you are. So it really may vary at the stage of business, or if you have a business that's seasonal in terms of, your peaks and valleys. And really on the other side, hey, Lachelle, hey, Loki, hey, Denise, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Anybody else, feel free to pop in. Let us know where you are from and maybe a way we can help you. And please share any sort of great questions you have so we really can pick Adriana's great brain. So knowing where you are is important. Sometimes too, people are about to hire assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's not necessarily a great job description. I appreciate amazing Catherine, who's in our green room, because Catherine, we started someplace, we're someplace else now. Hey, Dee, welcome. Thanks for joining us from Virginia. I think also, as you're saying, when we start, the scope of work or the scope of projects sometimes, and Catherine can blush in the green room. When we first started working, we were possibly going to work on two different scopes of work.
Right.
And kind of two different areas. One was a skill set I totally don't have. So I really was just hiring Catherine for her expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was something that I was doing internally, and I did it a different way. And it was really great because Catherine's a process person.
Yeah.
She's more organized than I was as an employee. Thank you for that. But when you're hiring somebody, hey, Michael, how are you? Welcome back. When you're hiring someone and they're coming in to join you, don't you almost need an orientation for them before you give them like the scope of work? How do you give them the backstory? Because no one jumps into the pool on day one and
Right.
they're at the deep end.
But you'd be surprised. But yeah, you would hope not. Ideally, in a perfect world, they start out. So what I like to recommend that people do is, again, this is kind of stuff that you do kind of like in the beginning, is kind of figure out like what kind of culture you want inside like the company or the business. Like what do you want? Like, what is the mission and vision? Like, we start with there. Or like, what are your values? Things like that. You want to make sure you have like an idea of what you want to share with the person. So that way, when you are actually onboarding and stuff, or like trying to bring people on, you already kind of have something in place. Like, these are their values as a company. This is what you're going to learn about. And then when you actually like onboard them or bring them on, they have that to refer back to. This is where the standard operating procedure stuff can come in too. Like, they have that. They can look through that and kind of go off of that. But overall, just making sure you have like some kind of culture set. And that's why I tell people it does not matter if you are solopreneurs, make sure you get that going. That's something too I miss my agency. And like now I have something set because I work with contractors. So like I have them, like I make sure they're trying to introduce each other, like cross promote. Like I try to push that because that's part of my values. I want people to promote and stuff. So I work that into the company, and it flows with orientation and stuff too. But yeah, culture definitely doesn't matter if you're by yourself or you only add maybe a couple people. You want to have that set. Like, what does my company stand for? What kind of things do I like to do? And build off of that.
Very cool. So Denise has a question for you. What suggestions do you have for mapping out work processes?
Ooh, yes. I love this. Okay. So suggestions, what I normally I work off a quarterly thing. So like I start off like the year, like, yes, I make yearly goals. Like I want to try to make that. But I get stressed out if I have to work too far in advance. So like I'll break that down by the quarter. So like I always share like monetary things. So people always like look at monetary stuff. So like if I want to make like 20 grand per month for the quarter, like that is my goal, I got to figure out what processes I need to have in place for that. So like operational wise, I need to look at my marketing. I need to see who I'm marketing to. So like you'll figure that out. So like you'll start with your goal, and then you'll figure out like what kind of places, what kind of components you need in order to reach that goal. And then you kind of start mapping out processes that way. So like if you know you want to make 20 grand a month, you need to figure out who you need to market to. You need to figure out how the sales process is going to look to. You're going to figure out the onboarding, how's the onboarding going to look like. And then you're going to start writing out the process, step-by-step processes for that. So like with number one, marketing, I'm going to market on LinkedIn. You write that stuff out. Number two, I'm going to focus on sales. I want to promote the biggest package I have. So I'm going to promote that, figure out a process, tie that in with the marketing. And as you do that, I usually say I start with bullet points. Like that's me. I start with bullet points, and then I'll actually type out the real step-by-step process. But once you figure out like your goal and the process and stuff that you want to decide with that, that's how you like start duplicating your stuff. Because once you have that in place, you can always enhance it. And that's the whole point. Whenever you do improvement, you need to refer back to that stuff and continuously update it. So that way, when someone does come in, you have that process set for them. You can make videos, how-to videos if you need to, but like you have that stuff there. And that is the whole entire goal.
I love that. Loki's reminding you is clapping and snapping as you talk about the onboarding.
I know you love it.
It's interesting too, because you're reminding us in terms of the culture, which is sometimes really challenging. When we're a solopreneur, we don't really see that outside view
Right.
of how to describe what the culture is like. You know, like I remember in the beginning, and I was inviting somebody in. They're like, "Well, what's your business like?" I'm like, "My business is inclusive." And they said, "Inclusive?" I said, "Yeah, my business is inclusive. From everything we do together, I want it to be safe, safe environment for us, safe environment for anybody who joins us, safe environment for anybody who visits, and really keeping, you know, the emotional kind of the psychological safety part, you know, it." And the person says to me, how do you guarantee that you're going to keep others safe? And I said, it's in the culture. I know what it's like. As a teacher's kid who was bullied, I know what that was like. I know what it was like being in workplace cultures where people weren't always welcoming or supportive. But I absolutely love that. So Loki's keeping us going, and thanks so much. And Denise is loving your answer too. But Loki says, what are some of the biggest traps that can trip people up through various stages of businesses?
Ooh, I will definitely say watching other people, because I know sometimes that is mine. Like seeing other people like, oh, I made this or I did this, and just like, and like I'll focus on them, like, what did they do? And then I'll kind of fall down the rabbit hole. So definitely one, focusing on other people. That honestly, that's the biggest one. Like people will be like, well, that person did this, that, and the third. And it's just like, well, according to your systems, like we need to focus on this first before we try to take that leap. But focusing on other people is definitely the biggest trap. And then also too, being overconfident. Like we've seen this with COVID, like all these tech layoffs and everything. Like people were overconfident. They're like, okay, people are spending money. Let's hire more people, or let's do this, that, and the third. Let's add this in. And I don't want to say they didn't take the time to look at the processes and stuff, but they could have. But normally when you're looking at processes, we can tell if things are not going to work and kind of interject if we can, or like there are ways you can tell. So that's why it's important to, again, document your stuff and stick to like goals and stuff. But yeah, just following other people and being overly confident. So like sometimes people have like a good month or even a good quarter, and it's like, okay, like we're good, and the next quarter it falls flat. So it's just a matter of constantly watching the processes, making sure things are still operational flow, if you can support it, and all that stuff. So those are the two main things. There are other things too, but those are the two main ones where everyone slips up. Not everyone, but a lot of people slip on it.
I love what you're saying because, you know, in many cases, and I remember when I first went into business, our resources were a score, or you went to the local chamber, or you go to the Small Business Association.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting because when I started, going to the chamber wasn't necessarily the place to go for, you know, resources. Now there are a lot more support systems as you're in different stages of business, and you may also find mentorship opportunities. But I think one of the things you reminded me of is we really need to slow it down because we're really overly involved sometimes in all the different stages. Would you suggest, and I know the process documentation is one of your jam. Is that something that you come in from the outside to help somebody do? Do you help people document it, or do you just teach us how to do it? Which is your approach?
I honestly do both because at the point, like someone bring, like if you were to bring me into the company, I always tell people like one, make sure you can financially like do that because like technical writing, it takes months, especially if you already have documentation, have to like sort through stuff. Like it can take months. Like it's not one of those things that's gonna be like a month and wham bam we're done. But I do come in. So like that's for like more long term stuff. For like the quick stuff, like if I'm helping someone create their own templates and things to focus on, I do like VIP days and stuff like that. Or I have like a membership community where I have people just come in. I don't do one-on-one consultation. So the community kind of fills in the gap. So like people ask questions in there, I answered it and they keep it moving. So it's like those different levels for that. But like doing like one-on-one support and stuff, like it just depends. It depends. But yeah, I do come in and help.
Okay. That sounds fantastic. Well, we all know we need extra hands, we need extra eyes, we need extra ears, all of that stuff. Michael's got some interesting ones and I appreciate it. So please everybody keep your cool comments coming. So Michael says he created a one pager and he uses it to follow up with people he networks with. And that it's a cool way that any of us could use to convey our company culture and product and service offerings. Michael, thank you for more gems. I need y'all to know too, this gentleman is so all that. He's one of our amazing guests in a marketing and science art or science, I think was the name of the title. And we did it last year, but he's really great at helping you drill down. I reach out to Michael often. Thank you again
Okay, that was
for
a good tip.
weekend hours this weekend. It's kind of cool because really it is so hard to describe your culture.
Yeah. It really is.
The product and service part is a little bit easier. And
Mm,
Denise is mentioning your point about focusing too much on what others are doing. And I think sometimes that's what happens as we're following some of the really big influencers
right.
and we're not necessarily able to execute or or imitate the process. We're missing something, which is why I'm grateful for people like you who offer VIP days as kind of a deep dive. The other part is, what if you're trying to document from a perspective, and I'm glad you said it takes time, but you're trying to document from a perspective of succession. You're starting to think ahead to
Yeah.
how am I selling this business, or how am I preparing it so somebody else can just walk in. I love it. One of the conversations I was having last week, somebody was saying how years ago they bought the company they were working at, which is kind of really a cool, I love it. It's a great story from a woman entrepreneur to hear. But how would you start there? And is that the type of project that you might come in to help somebody with because they're trying to document every nook and cranny?
Yeah. And honestly, I'm glad you brought that up because I had a mom's company and mom's organization. I sold off it, I did a unique way. So like it wasn't like I made millions or thousands and stuff off of it, but like I actually went through that process and sold it off to somebody else so she can mimic what I was doing. But with that, yes, definitely one. That's exactly why I always encourage people like document now, like figure out a succession plan. If you don't have one now, like even for myself, like it may change. Like beforehand, I was like, I may sell, and now I'm just like, maybe I'll pass it down to like one of my employees down the line. But it's always going to be up in the air until then. But like for the time being, whenever it comes to documenting stuff like that, I honestly start off at the beginning. Like I break it down between the stuff you will give off to a team and the stuff that you have like personal standard operating procedures. So like documenting what it is, like the very basics. And sometimes people look at me like, this is like, we already know this stuff. I already have this stuff. I'm just like, no, you need to document stuff like down from like the office hours, how you actually operate. Cause like the actual work hours and how you actually operate is different. So it's like, are you doing all the stuff during business hours? Are you doing the stuff after? Like doing that stuff, figuring out marketing again, like how are you marketing? What platforms are you on? Jotting that down, the type of software you're using, like everything that you are personally doing. I always tell them start there. Don't worry about trying to figure out standard procedures as if you're handing off to a team. Because once you figure that stuff out, then you can pass it on to someone else and then you can tweak it for your team. But like at the end of the day, it all falls on us. Like, how are we operating? How are we doing stuff? And before like the duplication can start, we got to make sure we fill in our gaps and pass it on, even if it's not our strength too. That's another thing that comes up. It's like, well, I'm not good at that particular thing. Like, yeah, I'm not good at everything either. Like you can say certain things about like marketing and stuff and sales. I'm just like, all right, I'm going to need to pay somebody else to help me with that. But anyway, but overall, when it's something like you don't know, like just setting like a goal for that. Like I always tell people goals, because that helps people a lot more. That helps a lot more than people think. But as long as you have like a goal and like an idea of where you want to go at with something, kind of fill that in and you can kind of like estimate certain things, or you can just leave it be and get a professional, get a consultation with somebody that's in that field that you're not good at and figure stuff out. But overall, you want to make sure you have something for each little component of business and keep it going. Because like as you're running the business, you're going to update it again. That's where the improvement, the updating the process and stuff come in. But the earlier you start, the better.
So, from many perspectives, and I love how you remind us there's a lot of different angles and ways to this. For somebody who's trying to start doing this, and they're overwhelmed, or they're a company that's kind of in a growth cycle, or they're that company that just lets somebody go without letting them document what it is they do.
Mhm.
How do we start there?
For those ones, usually I always start them off like, okay, this month, like, what are y'all doing this month? What you don't have any, like, what exactly are you starting off this month? Like, what is the key focus? Then we start kind of like doing processes off of that. And then, like, okay, after you do that, like, what's the next step? Like, what things are you trying to do next month? Or what's something that is not complete, but you are going to need within the next 2 to 3 months or something? But like, I start off in small chunks because like if you're looking at it from the big picture, it is a lot and people will not do it. So I have to start off with what are you doing right now? Or like even next week, I had someone next week like, what are you trying to do next week? What is the process? What does the process for that look like? And then we just kind of go off of that. But it's a slow build up is what I'm pretty much trying to say. Like we do a slow build up because again, document process a lot. Technical writing is a lot. And trying to do it by yourself is a whole lot, especially if you're trying to figure out where to start. And a lot of times people try to start off like, okay, I need to start from the beginning. And it's like, no, like, yeah, you'll get to that when you actually have time to do that. But right now we need to focus on the stuff that you're working on currently and making sure that's built up. And then we can go backwards.
Oh, I love that. A real reminder too is we're looking at the history of it to remember to keep looking forward.
Right.
And to what's next, to what the next goal is, to what the next dream is, to what the next seasonal challenge might be.
Yeah, I have to remind myself that too. Because I find myself wanting to shift over. I'm like, no, Audrey, you said you're focusing on this for the next few months. Focus on that. Because I get really excited with certain stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to start this new. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it right now. Soon, but not right now.
Logie's got another one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a sunk cost fallacy?
That prevents people from taking on what you teach. Maybe. I don't know. I want to say I would say it's kind of difficult for people to talk about in depth about what I teach because a lot of time, from what I found, because I know I struggled when I was doing my own stenography procedures and technical writing stuff. I feel like people focus so much like on the industries and stuff, like they don't take the time to really break it down to like simple language. And I would say like people do talk about. I don't know. I honestly can't really fully answer that. But I was just like I've always wondered that too myself. But I see more people talking about it now. But like I feel like it's one of those things like until you lived it sometimes too. Because I was like I start out with this and like what I learned, I use what I've learned and like help clients learn and like mistakes that we did, and I teach that. So I feel like it's like a mix of people really probably don't know how in depth it can go, and they may not have been from a business owner standpoint or realizing how much goes into it. Because by the time a lot of people end up like paying somebody to do it for them, and even with that, there's like a lot of mistakes. It's like sometimes I've had people come up to me and they're like, I hired someone to do this, and they started off, they didn't get what they needed. So like the stuff that they got, they pretty much is expired. So it's like, I don't think people are teaching from the angle I teach that. And if they do, I haven't come across it yet. But I'm pretty sure there's millions of people here. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of technical writers. And I'm pretty sure someone does it. But yeah, I honestly cannot fully answer that. It's just, I don't know.
Hey, and I think sometimes that's the reminder in terms of, and those are hard things to document, your experience, kind
Right.
of your intuition, whether you have a sense of it, and kind of how you analyze it. I love what you're saying about the looking forward part, because really you're reminding us the view changes, the experience changes, the what we're documenting changes, and you're reminding us to go back and to revisit it, which is really, really cool. I'm
Yeah.
loving these questions. Keep them
No, I was like,
coming.
okay,
Keep them,
I'm
keep
thinking,
them coming. Keep them coming. And Denise is asking, how do you build trust and confidence in the capacity of other people?
I would say definitely being confident myself. Like any other time, like when I talk to my subcontractors, even now, like some of us are still like good friends. Like we just hang out and stuff. Well, not hang out, but like we meet up and everything, even though they're in their own project for the time being. But like the main thing, they're just like, oh, I just like you seem confident what you're doing, and it helped push me to do something else. So like being the leader, really, like people like to follow the leader. So like you being confident, and I will tell them too, like I tell them straight up, like, I don't know fully what I'm doing, so can y'all help me with this? Being
No,
honest, being confident, and like just honestly being vulnerable really helped with the cultures with that. Cause like even now, like I could call the same people and they would probably come back just because like how I made them feel. Cause I always try to make sure I uplift them as well. I try not to put myself first. I was like, I care for them more. I mean, I care about myself too. I want to stay in business, but I care for them honestly a little bit more because like y'all are helping me bring my dream to life. So like I operate from that space. I'll probably say like that, and just being confident, being vulnerable and stuff. That definitely seems to help.
I love your question also, Denise. In the process of getting certified in Trust Style Index, thanks to amazing Yvette Bethel of Organizational Soul. And she partners with 6 Seconds, and they've got some amazing tools, and just started on the certifications last week. I'm really excited and looking forward to it. In the process, it reminded me that part of helping others build trust, if we can get there in a relationship, is really slowing it down to look at the components. One of the things I love is Yvette kind of had us take an amazing assessment that really broke down opportunities for trust in our trust style. And what I really like was in the trust part, it was about integrity, emotional mastery, and something called a we disposition. So, kind of opportunities to really build trust in relationships. I think the confidence part, especially as Denise is saying it, in the confidence of other people, Adriana is saying she's got it internally. Some of us were from the fake it till you make it generation, and that's what they told us, and let you go out there not necessarily feeling really confident. I remembered, somebody saying, breathe deeply, lean in, you've got this, you're about to learn. And the person who said it said, remember your intuition. There's something somewhere that's going to tell you whether this is the right way and the wrong way. And I think right now, in others, we're at a point where we're in so many situations, we don't really know what's happening with others emotionally. We don't know necessarily their perspectives, whether they've lived a life with trauma, whether something's triggering them. So I love, Denise, what you're saying, because we're definitely going to continue the trust and the confidence discussion. But it's challenging because you don't always feel it internally.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you feel it internally and you're an introvert and you don't necessarily show it externally. What I love is we were at a presentation and the person giving the presentation didn't realize that there were four other people in the room who had given that same presentation. Everybody would do it differently, and everybody does it in your own style. What I thought was great was they had a tech issue and the slides wouldn't work, and they then had four other people in the room who could kind of help you keep going. And I thought that was like a fabulous gift to kind of pay forward, to really just be helpful of the confidence. But I think that the capacity of others, we really need to know sometimes their abilities. Some of us have less of a capacity
Yeah.
to build deep trust with others and to really feel confident. I love it because Ekoa, one of our prior guests, Ekoa has a business like be your number one cheerleader. And I think sometimes we need that basic skill or that capacity within us. And then maybe we're able to build on that. But otherwise, we're definitely going to continue that discussion.
I was like, yeah, I was like, that's a whole topic by itself. I love that.
I do too. I do too. And Denise, thanks for bringing that one up. We're going to be talking in a couple of weeks, and I know we're discussing what our topic will be, but I think that would be kind of cool also.
Yeah.
To leave us with something, Adriana, that we could build on, what would you suggest our takeaway could be?
Definitely the biggest takeaway, if you get anything out of this video, is to definitely focus on getting yourself in order. Like if you want to duplicate yourself in business or wherever you want to be at, make sure you honestly be the part or work the part first. Like, or I don't want to say like work, but yeah, work the part. And if it's something that you don't goal towards it, because I can't say how oftentimes people will say like, I work for this person and like, what are we working for? Like, there's nothing there. So like, as long as you have a goal for something, as long as you are documenting what you can, get some help. I always say, please get some help from somebody. If you don't know the industry or component, please get help. But make sure you're documenting around the way. Make sure you're actually working the part before you try to hire somebody in there. If you're getting a specialist, make sure you have a goal for them to at least work off. And that's honestly all I got. Just work the roles. Do it first before you try to expand.
Oh, I love that. Work the roles before you try to expand. I love that. That's kind of a mic drop.
Yeah.
Because in some cases, people are documenting something and they're also not aware of how that role overlaps with another role.
Right.
You mentioned it before, whether we're hiring somebody as a solopreneur to help us with marketing or to help us with sales, but really to look also at the relationship between the roles. I absolutely love that. Adriana, where can we find you online?
You guys honestly can find me right here on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn, and I've been spending more time doing my newsletters and stuff because I have a whole lot to say. So there, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. I'm honestly not on as much, and I'm trying to learn this TikTok thing, but I'm not on there as well. I forgot to do the link, but I'll add it in the comments as well. But yeah, y'all can find me online, but mainly you can find me here on LinkedIn.
And you've also got a personal SOP workbook and systems ebook.
See, I forget to mention and stuff like that. So if you're watching this, I do have a freebie for people to start working on what I call the personal standard operating procedure workbook. So this is like, again, like I mentioned, focusing on like things you need to do for marketing, sales, office hours, your actual working hours, things of that nature. This is where I have everybody start out first and then kind of expand off of that. So make sure you grab that. It is completely free.
That's fantastic. We're looking forward to sharing that and to those wonderful, wonderful gems. I am so delighted you joined us today. and that we were able to make the time work for
I
your
know.
wonderful
I
schedule.
appreciate
So
it.
when Adriana comes back, she's coming back at 2:30, y'all. Just get ready. When you're coming, we'll make another accommodate her really busy schedule and amazing children. The thing that I'd love to say is, besides thanking Jane for introducing us, is to just say thank you. You really bring an amazing energy into the work that you do. Some may say, mm, documentation, and it truly lights you up. We can feel that light and that wonderful energy. So thank you so much for bringing that and sharing that into our world.
You're very welcome.
And stay in touch with Adriana. And when you have a chance, if you're on LinkedIn, please follow us at Be Visible with Mel Events, the hashtag, or if you're off of LinkedIn, click that link. It'll take you to find more information about some of our upcoming lives. But Adriana, I just wanted to say thank you for making today's day. This virtual toast is for you. Thank you for bringing your amazing energy. And Denise is wishing you also. She's also thanking you for the helpful ideas and your great energy. And she wishes you continued success in your business.
I appreciate you guys catching us live and stuff and coming on.
We do too. And check out Adriana at I want to say the not lazy millennial, but at the lazy millennial.
Yep, thelazymillennial.net. I will be here and y'all feel free to reach out anytime too.
Thanks so much, everybody. Stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, stay in touch, and have a magnificent day. And thanks so much for joining us.